master the first thing, master exercise one before you move on to this one, but I just didn't want to have to explain it 10 different times to people. So exercise 2, you have these slides again. It's just the same document as the same Google Slides thing as the other one. So this is going to take definitely the rest of the day, probably like a couple of hours tomorrow morning as well. Basically, the problem that we're trying to solve is we have some data on antibiotic resistance genes detected in over 2,000 Salmonella typhi genomes. So you can just click this link in the document and it will download the data. It'll give you a Dropbox link and you just have to click download there to get the data. So the aim of the exercise is to read in this data. I think it's a TSV, to parse it, and to make 2 different output tables, which are specified on the next page. And so the overall idea is to do this exercise twice, once without using classes, and then again using classes. So you see how it works without using classes, and then you see how it works using classes, and you can kind of compare and contrast, and hopefully this will make it slightly easier to see what's happening with the different parts of the class when you've already thought it through for doing it without the classes. Oh, this is the gene. So the gene, I don't know, sorry, I should have moved this on. I'll move this on to the next page. This is, should be on the next page. Okay, so this is what the input data looks like. So we have sample, name, so there's multiple rows per sample. This is just the same sample, obviously. This is a different sample. And then we have drugs, all different drugs. How many per sample? 7, 8 drugs per sample. Then the susceptibility, so whether it's susceptible or resistant, S or R. And then if it is resistant, it will have a gene. And then this gene string, this string here, is separate. If there's more than one gene, it's separated by a semicolon. And then each information about each gene is separated by colons. And it's the name of the gene, the percentage coverage of the gene, and then the depth at which the sequencing depth at which the gene is covered. So the gene is TEM1, it's 97% of the gene is identified, and it's average of 74-fold depth. And then this is the same, just about 2 genes, STRA and STRB. And then at the end you have lineage. Okay, so these are the 2 different output tables that you need to make. The first table is 1 sample per line, or sorry, rather 1 line per sample. So this will have 2,087 lines or whatever it is. And then you have the sample name, the lineage, and then rather than being long, like it is here, it's kind of long, right? You have sample, drug, susceptibility. We rather go wide, and we have the sample, and then the drugs and in columns along, and the susceptibilities are the values. Okay, does that make sense?
Where are the gene names?
We don't need the gene names this is the first table. So the first table is just sensitive, resistant, what's the phenotype kind of thing. And then this is the second table.
So you feel on the first one, could you struggle to the other?
Yeah. This one?
Yeah. I'm trying to the longness to figure out the longness and the wideness of the drugs on the drugs column. Okay.
Yeah, so I think it should be 8.
Okay.
8 long. And so yeah. Okay.
All right.
So that's this one. And then the second one is it's 1 row per sample drug combination, kind of like the input table. only the positives are brought forward. Only the positives come through that have are resistant and that have a gene. So, for example, for this one, well, actually, sorry, this one isn't in the. Yeah, it's okay. So here, 19411 is susceptible to ESBLs. So ESBL, so ESBL isn't one of the drug classes. So we only have the ones where a gene is present, and then we split this column, the value in this column, into gene 1, gene name, gene 1 percentage coverage, gene 1 depth, gene 2 percentage coverage, gene 2 depth. Okay, and with those three values just separated out into different columns. Okay, so the three values from there. Does that make sense?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
So the first thing you've changed from long to wide. The first thing which.
Yeah.
So you changed the first table from long to wide. Okay. For one sample ID or.
Yeah, and no, so this will have lots of rows in for every sample ID.
Okay. The second one we separated one column line which has some characters like colon and
Yeah.
two different columns.
Exactly.
Columns.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's it. So yeah, like I say, don't rush. Master, get used to it first. Or on the other hand, maybe just starting a new problem might be also a bit of a refreshing. So don't, if you're feeling like you're really in the middle of it, don't move on. But if you're feeling like you're done with exercise 1, then feel free to move on. Right. Thank you.